everybody, and welcome to another episode of See You on the Other Side. I am Christine.
I'm Leah. What was that?
I don't know, but take away anything I ever said about you being a phone sex operator.
Take it back.
I'm Leah.
I told you I couldn't do that.
To not do that.
I told you I cannot be a phone sex operator ever.
You can, but you know, you're just goofy a little bit.
I need to tap into my alter ego a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll work on that.
There's a sexy Leah.
In there.
There is. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Oh, she's in there. What are we talking about today, Leah?
Well, we went back and forth about this a little bit, but I think it's time. I think people are ready for it. Maybe, you think?
Your second trip?
My second large trip. There are a lot of little ones in there sprinkled out throughout the years. And you guys probably heard my first one and how powerful and amazing it was and how much it changed my life. And I really think my second one was more powerful.
Yeah. And I think, we were hesitant about going into your second trip right away, but people are very responsive to
hearing the stories.
And I think, like I said, it's not what people expect, and people who are unfamiliar with it maybe have their own assumptions, and we're kind of breaking those.
And I also think that going into this second story, we're going to touch a little bit about the dark side of things.
Yeah.
Which, I don't want to sound like we're glorifying all of this without also going into the bad things that could happen. And there are bad things that could happen. I have not experienced myself a bad trip. However, this is important to know for the things that could possibly happen.
But is a bad trip, a lot of people talk about that, about having a bad trip. Is it a lesson? I don't know enough. I'm a one and done, or not one and done. I've only done it
a
once.
One and later.
Yeah, a one and later person.
I know that in this psychedelic community, we don't like to call them bad trips. They are challenging experiences because there was a lesson in there somewhere. You just have to figure out what that was. I have a friend who had a bad trip, she says. Several years ago, she was in a really bad relationship, in a really bad situation in her life, had this experience, and it was like basically yelling at her, like, get your shit together, pull yourself together, get the fuck up. What are you doing with your life? She came out of it. She broke up with the abusive husband, left the abusive husband, got a better job. Like, she knew she was in this like dark place, and she pulled herself out of it. And she says this to me. She's like, yeah, I'm not doing that again for a while. It was a bad trip. And I was like, but was it?
Right.
Look where you are now. Like, look at all the things that you've done since then, because it scared you into doing something about your life.
Well, and the other thing too is a lot of us want to change, or a lot of us don't like how we feel.
Yeah.
But then we're resistant to change.
Yeah.
Like, we want change, but we don't want to change anything about what we're doing or the way that we think.
Right.
And it's like, maybe it's throwing that at you because it's telling you, like, you have to change something.
Right.
You have to wake up and change it.
I think we're also so not self-aware, but we are so far we fixate on other people changing and the situations around us changing
instead of ourselves.
Instead of what we can do to change the situation, what the power that you hold in that part of your life. Like, what are you doing that could change? You can't change everybody around you. You can't change the situation without changing something within yourself first.
Right.
So yeah, I think a lot of people are resistant to change because then it means kind of looking at yourself.
Well, and here's another thing that I've gotten a lot too. What if I do this and it has me leaving a partner I love, or leaving my job, or just like, making these rash decisions? And I don't think it's that. And again, if it's a healthy relationship and a healthy partner, that's not going to be the lesson. The lesson is what you need. But people, I think it's again, it's the sense of control.
Yeah.
And with mushrooms, you kind of have to let that go. Like even myself, I did it too. I was like, oh, it's going to be about this or it's going to be about this, and trying to control it. And if it's meant for you, that's not going to be the lesson. The lesson is going to be what you need.
Right.
So stop trying to, I guess, control the narrative.
And just maybe focus on what you can change about the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or yourself.
Or yourself.
Yeah.
I told you guys in the last episode about my first one, how afterwards I was able to see patterns, and I'm not talking about like fractals and numbers and stuff. I'm just like noticing patterns in my behavior and coping skills that weren't serving me anymore, patterns of behavior that I had that were toxic, and patterns in the people in my life around me. I posted something on Instagram today that was like, when you respect yourself, oh shit, what'd it say?
When you respect yourself, it's hard to tolerate anyone disrespecting you.
Yes.
You don't have the patience for it anymore like you used to.
Exactly. So you sent me that, and then I like reposted it because I was like,
welcome.
oh shit, thank you.
I'm just kidding.
Thanks. So I started seeing disrespect more.
Yeah.
And speaking out against it. And I think one of the things I learned in this past year, in the first year of my experience, was learning how to use my voice and learning how to stand up to this disrespect. And that was really hard.
Yeah, because people are used to you being a certain way,
Absolutely.
AKA a doormat.
I had never spoken up for myself before.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to, and I stayed quiet to keep the peace in so many situations. And I want to say this in the beginning because I'm probably going to say a lot of things that people are going to have some judgments against. I'm saying all of this about my husband in this situation and about myself in this situation. And while we were not a very good unit at the time, we are now. So keep that in mind, all the dark stuff I'm about to say.
But I think that's kind of the goal of this podcast and what we talked about in the episode before with my trip. You know, I'm telling them all of these bad things that happened to me in my childhood, but how I didn't let it control me anymore. I took control. I took control of myself and my life and where I wanted it to go. And that's what you did too.
All right.
So think of it like that.
Yeah. I just don't want anybody like looking at him as a bad person or looking at me as a bad person for the things that we did.
But you both have grown and you both have evolved.
Exactly.
And, you know, if you judge me for how I was a year ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, I'm like, oh, well, I guess you don't know me very well.
Yeah.
Because I've changed a lot since then.
Okay.
So if you're going to hold that against me, then I don't know. Sorry.
Right. So, well, then that's just going to be the preface of this.
Yeah.
Like, know that there's another side to this. So, you know, this is during COVID, and I started to notice that he was drinking a lot more and he had addiction issues, and it was never around me. He knew I didn't like it. But it started happening more frequently. And one of the reasons I didn't like him to drink and do these substances is because it turned him into a very different person. And I started to notice all these patterns in behavior. I would see this and be like, why are you treating me like this? And he would blame me for treating me like that.
So he would gaslight you is what you're saying.
He would gaslight the fuck out of me. And I didn't even know what that word meant. I didn't know what it felt like.
Yeah.
And all of these things started happening, and I just start like, I don't want to say losing my mind, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm like doing all of these great things, and I'm working on myself, and I'm growing as a person, and I'm healing my trauma, and I'm letting go of the past. And he's saying all of these things about me, like I'm doing this, but I'm not, you know, it fucked with my head a little bit. He used to get girls' numbers in front of me when he was drinking, or flirt with other girls in front of me while he was drinking. And when I would
be so hurtful,
bring it up, he would say things like, well, maybe I did it because you don't drink anymore and I wanted to be with someone on my level. Or maybe I am like that in front of you because I feel comfortable around you and I can let my guard down. And I'm like, none of these things are making sense.
Wow.
Like, you are blaming me for
Wow.
something you're doing that is hurting me.
Right. So random side note, when I caught my ex-husband cheating on me once, I found he was on his laptop and then he had gone to bed, and he never logged out of any of his stuff. And I stayed awake and his computer kept going off and I opened it up and it was a woman messaging him. And they were sex chatting with each other, which I was like, awesome. And I could go back and he never deleted the conversation. So I could go back and I could see all the times that they talked to each other.
Oh, God.
And it was very graphic and it made me sick. And a lot of the times, like if in college, if I saw them talking and I would say, oh, what are you guys talking about? Oh, she's gross. She's disgusting, and totally, was so just crude about her. But
to
then
you.
Right, to me. And I'm sure he did the same thing.
About you to her.
100%. And anyways, so I woke him up and I was like, this is a joke, whatever. And he admitted it because I caught him off guard. But I would be like, why would you do that? And he was like, or why did you talk to her like that? I don't recognize how you're talking. And he was like, well, it's because I don't respect her and I respect you. I'm like, obviously you don't respect me that much if you're doing this.
Right.
So,
but like flipping it around on you.
Right. Like, oh, thank you. What a compliment.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I feel so special.
It's that lack of accountability, holding themselves accountable for something that they did or for their actions at all. They want to gaslight to escape that accountability.
100%.
So one of the other things that started happening during all of this is I started to learn what boundaries were and how to set them. And I was firm in them. And I set a boundary with his mother, and it wasn't a hard one. That's what blew my mind. The boundary was, I no longer want to come to you about our relationship. It's detrimental to our relationship. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't resolve anything. I started to notice that she played both sides. So it just really wasn't, it didn't work for me to go. I went to her a lot. I will admit that. She was the only mother figure I had in my life for about 15 years. So I went to her about a lot of stuff that would happen in our relationship, but it didn't fix anything. She wouldn't talk to him about these things. So it was really just like me unloading on her and her knowing what was happening in our relationship, but not really offering solutions or help or advice. So I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And that set off this explosion. It was the two of them against me for like a year.
Oh, wow.
I can't describe how that felt, knowing I was bettering myself and the two people that I thought would have been on board with that were so detrimental to my healing.
I can't imagine how isolating that was, because I have a great support system. I have you, I have Tony, like, my mother is super supportive of me doing this. So I can't even fathom that.
Well, and I started getting in my head a little bit about it. Like, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't you guys supportive of this? Like, I am the best I've ever been. And you guys are like, I have to say this because I'm not going to throw myself under the bus because I'm not trying to hide it, but I had access to his text messages for a little bit. He was like synced to my work iPad, and I was seeing these messages back and forth between him and his mother about me. And I think that's where it like really fucked with my head.
Well, and it was very like crude about
my God, right? Like saying the kids would be better off without me, like her saying this and trying to tell him like, you need to leave her and she's controlling and abusive and toxic. And the whole time I'm thinking, your son is getting wasted and screaming in my face and talking to other girls, and you think I'm the problem?
Well, it's because you didn't have a voice before and you just took it.
Well, and I think what was crazy to me is like, she knew all of these things. She was in our business for 15 years.
Yeah, but she wasn't doing anything to say like, hey, you're not treating your wife how you should be treating.
No.
You need to treating her. You need to go get help.
Yeah. No, that was never. It was me.
Be a better husband, and you need to work on being a better father. And because the boys and Elle need to see someone.
My kids.
Right. Well, yeah. Somebody treating their mom.
And someone who doesn't have a problem with drinking, which all of these things, it fucked with my head because I'm like, oh my God, like your first husband, my husband's real father was an alcoholic. And you're putting all of this on me without saying, Jason, I think you maybe have a drinking problem. I'm saying it. I'm the only one saying that. And he's like, I don't have a problem with drinking. Like, and everyone around him is like, he's not the problem. You're the problem. And I felt like I was going crazy. Yeah. I really did, because I'm like, am I the problem? Is this really what's happening? This happened all within that first year before my husband got sober. We took a trip, just the two of us. It was the first trip we had ever taken without our kids.
Holy crap.
So ever. And at this point we had been together. This was our 15-year anniversary.
Yeah.
We go on a trip. Punta Cana, his parents are watching the kids for us for the first time ever for longer than like a 2-day thing. And the third day we were there, he was drinking every night, but on the third day he went back to his old patterns, and he was doing something. It involved another female, and I saw it and I lost my shit. And I reacted. And this is what I want to say. Like the old me, I didn't react. I was so numb to all of these things that would happen that I didn't stand up for myself. He knew it bothered me, but he would always be like, oh my God, I was too drunk. Like everybody gets drunk. It's not that big of a deal. And I was like, he's right. Like I get drunk and I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. And he's right. But like, then don't get that drunk. So and that was his thing. Like I was drunk. Oh my God. Like, but I'm like, that is so hurtful what you did. We are on the first vacation we have ever been on together. We didn't take a honeymoon. We didn't get to travel before we had kids. And 3 days in, this happens. And we literally spent the last part of that trip, like completely separate, like not speaking to each other. And when we got back from that, at this point, his mom and I were already on the outs. And when we got back from that, she blamed me for that.
Really? How?
Because I reacted. And what I did to him was unacceptable. I guess I have to fucking say what I did. I reacted because it was a text message thread that he was sending these photos of this girl to and saying all of these things about her. And like, meanwhile, like we're hanging out with this girl on this trip. So I'm like, it just made me feel like so low.
Right. And insecure.
And so I saw these text threads and I screenshot them and I posted them on my Instagram stories. I'm saying this is never something I would have done in a million years. And I still held back. And that's why I'm like, I didn't even do anything that bad. I put it on my Instagram stories and tagged the guys that were in the text thread. And I only put it on my close friends, and I deleted all of my close friends and only put them on there.
Oh, okay.
So I even held back.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm going to scare these guys because this is the way they speak and their wives don't know this. And I'm going to tag them in this and post it on my Instagram stories.
And scare the shit out of them.
I'm going to tag them and they're going to see this.
Ooh, girl.
And that is exactly what happened.
What
like
did they do?
Immediately, like this is like the 2 days of no speaking where I was just like so distraught over all of this. I'm like, I got to do something. I've got to do something. I can't stay silent on this anymore. And so that was when it was like, how could you do this to me? And I'm like, oh my God, it's not even like the only people who are seeing this are you and the people in this thread.
Right.
Like, nobody else is seeing this. And you think that's worse than what you did to me.
Right.
So that's what she said. What I did was worse. And I'm like, that's crazy, because for years you've told me I need to stand up to him and I need to tell him what he's doing is wrong. And the first time I do it, I'm the bad guy.
Right.
So for several weeks after that, like, we fought about this trip for so long.
So hang on.
Yeah.
What did his friends do? Were they like, "Golly, I'm so sorry for being an idiot," or what?
Oh, God, no.
No?
No.
They didn't say anything.
No. No. Yeah.
What's their wives' number? I'm just kidding.
I'm like, I've always wanted to sit down with them. Jason's sober now and he doesn't really see or talk to them anymore. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, probably for a reason.
Okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. Go on. Sorry.
So we fought about this trip for several weeks after that because he refused to hold himself accountable. And I'm just screaming, like, this is a pattern with you. Like, what are you not seeing about this? And I remember one night this was a first. This never happened. He's screaming in my face, "Shut the fuck up about this trip. Get the fuck over it or I'm leaving you."
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, what an apology.
Yeah.
But he's saying this to me, and I, for the first time, like, I shut down. I cried myself to sleep next to him. And I woke up the next morning and I had therapy and I just broke down and I said, I think I'm in an abusive relationship. I've never felt it before. He's never hit me. It's never been physical, but I have never felt more like I was abused, like, mentally, than what's been happening. And it just fucked with me that I had admitted it and said it out loud. And I think what really sent me over the edge, and I promise this is getting somewhere, because this is when I reached my depressive episode that was like the lowest ever. I saw the text message to his mom where he said, "I got in her face last night and I told her if she ever brought it up again, I was going to leave her. And her response was, 'Good for you. I'm so proud of you.'" And she said, "You're just the son I thought I'd raised." And I'm like, oh my God, this is what you thought you'd, like, how can you be proud of him? Like, last night was the moment I realized I'd been in a toxic, abusive relationship.
And you're
and
telling
it
him.
Clicked.
But you're telling him that you're
And you're telling him
Right.
you're proud of him for what he did to me.
Oh, wow.
So I spiraled. And I'm like, you have a drinking problem and your mom is toxic as fuck. And nobody is listening to me and nobody understands me. And I don't know what the fuck is going on and what the fuck is wrong with me. Like, nobody loves me. Like, my mom abandoned me. My dad abandoned me. You're abandoning me. Your mom's abandoning me. Like, I just fucking spiraled. And I remember having these meltdowns. This went on for several months, and I would, like, go outside and, like, lay in the fucking pouring rain, just sobbing, and come back in and, like, go into the closet and just cry. And I remember one time he texted me and said, "Are you getting Elle ready for school or getting her dinner," or something like that. And I was like, "I'm having a bit of a panic attack right now." And he was like, "Okay." Like, that was his response. And he found me in the closet, like, curled up in a ball. And I was just like, I don't know. I kept saying, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't anybody love me? I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And it just keeps happening. Like, nobody loves me anymore. And I don't know why. So this happened, like, twice in front of him, where I had these, like, severe meltdowns. And about a year after my first trip, I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, you're holding me back, and I don't want to leave, but I have to leave. So I took my daughter. I went to Florida. I visited my aunt for a week just to kind of get away and remove myself from the situation, get my head straight. I was looking at apartments, how to get out of this. I was ready to leave. I had to, and I knew I had to, because this was not an environment I could continue to heal and grow in, with two people literally trying to pull me back down and making comments about the growth that I've made. Like, it was just debilitating. So I go to Florida and clear my mind, and I'm like, yep, this is what I have to do. I have to leave. This is for me and my children. I have to leave. I cannot be in this anymore. And I came back, and I feel like he saw it on my face. I really do. Like, I had said it before I left, but I don't think he understood where I was. And the night I got back from Florida, he went to his first AA meeting.
Wow.
It was still really rough because they call this like this first sober cloud, where like, you know, you go to an AA meeting and you come back, and he was like, you know, I'm going to take this serious. I'm not going to drink anymore. I've done a lot of things, and I'm really reflecting here. And I think this is going to work. And I'm like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
Like, I still want a divorce. Like, I'm past that. I got to the point in this where I was so low. There were 3 days I wasn't, I think it was because he got sober and his mom said something else about me. And I was just like, I don't understand why she's not happy you're sober. Like, she's putting all this on me, and you don't see it, and I see it. And I started getting really low again. This is only like a month after he got sober, so I'm not talking like a year or whatever. I'd never been suicidal before, but I remember wishing I could like drive off the side of the road and thinking like, I just need to get out of this situation. I don't know how else to get out of it. I need to get out of my head. This whole situation is so fucked up. He's getting sober, and his mom is like, good, I'm so proud of you. I hope Leah's doing the work too. And I'm like, I have been doing the work. And it was just dig after dig after dig. And I didn't sleep for 3 days. I didn't eat for 3 days.
Oh my God.
I was like hugging my kids every morning harder and harder, and like trying to hold on to something because I knew I was slipping. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Like, I knew I was slipping away from myself, and it was a really dark place to be.
Did you have anybody to talk to?
I
mean, I know you had a therapist, but
I wasn't seeing my therapist at this time. I think I just kind of shut down, which was probably not the best thing to do. I think I was ashamed for like admitting to her that I knew I was in a toxic, abusive relationship and then still staying.
I just feel bad that I like didn't know.
Don't feel bad. Nobody knew. I didn't come home. There were a couple of friends that, you know, I called one of them at like 1 o'clock in the morning because there were 2 nights that I just drove around not coming home, like didn't sleep, you know. One of them I was like, oh, I think she lives in this area. I'm gonna text her and see if she's up. And she was up, and I said, can I come over? And I stayed, and we sat on our porch, and I until about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I left and came home, got my kids up ready for school, left and went to work like this. I mean, I was like struggling and pretending like life was just going on. Another friend group, like, they randomly texted and said, hey, do you guys want to get together tonight? And I was like, yes. What time? And I get there, and I was just so checked out. I just wanted to be somewhere, but I didn't want to be home. I didn't want to talk about it. I just needed to be somewhere. And I just fucking crashed. And the next day is when I was like, I need to do another mushroom trip. There's so much shit going on in my head. I can't get out of this dark place. And last time we talked about how you followed protocols, and I didn't have time to do any of that.
Yeah.
I just had this moment of like, I need to get myself out of this dark hole.
Like right now.
Because I can feel myself slipping, and I am so afraid of what I'm going to do. And I remember saying, like, he knew I was going crazy, and it was a mental breakdown. He was like, do I need to call someone? I was like, yes, please, because I can't do this. Sorry. Shit. I'm not sorry.
Don't be sorry. You're doing good.
So it was a very last minute, like, his mom had the kids. We had the night off. I didn't have a guide. I didn't microdose beforehand. I'd already fucking fasted for 3 days. So there was that.
So you're like, fuck it.
Fuck it. I need to do this and I need to do it now. And
Yeah.
knowing what little I knew about bad trips or challenging experiences, I already knew it was going to be a bad trip. I was like, this is going to be dark.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into this and it's going to be so fucking dark and I'm going to be alone in this. And I asked him, I said, I need you to do this for me. I need you to sit and make sure I'm okay. I need you to sit outside the door. And when I'm done, you can come get me. But like, please do this for me. I don't have time to set up a guide or have a friend come sit with me. Can you please just do this one last thing for me? Just sit with me for this. And he was like, okay, fine. And he was, he was upset because of all the stuff that was happening. So, and then this is where down the hatch, take the medicine, I go lay in the bedroom, turn the lights off, put the blindfold on, put some music on. And I just laid back and I surrendered to whatever was going to happen, which is a big thing in
that's hard.
mushrooms and taking it as a medicine is learning to surrender to whatever the experience is going to be. I think because I had already done it before, I was like, I'm fucking ready. Like, I surrender. Like whatever you have for me, I'm ready. And I went into it thinking it was going to be horrible. And it was so beautiful. Oh my God, I don't even know where to start. I go through the portal. I lay back. I am in this white room. It's almost like this big empty room, like a psych ward. It kind of, looks like a psych ward.
Fuck, Leah.
I have said this, I've told this story so many times and I'm like,
that's what's so crazy about mushrooms is
my
all of the
God.
random epiphanies that you just keep having. They don't stop.
Every time I've told this story, I'm like, it was a big white room. Like it was like this empty, no furniture, like just a white room. And I'm standing in the middle of it. And I see a shadow in the corner.
Okay.
And I look and it's kind of like this, like you see this shadow, but it's like a Peter Pan type shadow. Like it's moving and it's like moving from corner to corner and it's like flying against the walls. And I'm like just watching it and I'm trying to like talk to it. Like, hey, where are you going?
Who are you?
What's going on? And, I'm chasing it like a kid. Like, where are you going? And this is hard to explain unless you've done mushrooms because, you said you didn't have visuals, you had feelings.
No, yeah.
And every time I've had these visuals. So it was like a movie playing in my mind. I start chasing this shadow and we're going from room to room, but also like from time to time.
Oh,
does that make sense to you? Maybe?
Yeah. So like different time periods?
Kind of. I don't know how to explain that that's how I knew what was happening, but it was like chasing this thing. And the longer I chased it, the faster it would like run away. And I started to get frantic and I started to panic and I started to like freak out. Like, where are you going? Why are you doing this? Why are you running from me? Like, I just want to like hang out, like talk, like come back. And I chase it into this room where there's like a big black hole in the middle.
Oh.
And it jumps into the hole. And I'm like, fuck, I have to go in after it.
That's like some Alice in Wonderland type shit.
Oh, I was thinking like Hercules, like the Sea of Souls. That's like how I describe it. Like,
okay, yeah.
Do you remember that movie where?
Nope.
Okay. Well, okay. Either one. It's like this big black hole and it jumps into the hole. And I'm like, fuck, I'm going to have to go after it. Like,
I got to go get this.
I got to go get this thing. Like, I don't even know why I need to get it, but I need to grab it. And so I jump in after it and I get to it and I pull it out of the hole and we both come out of the hole and it's me and the shadow person thing. Like, I'm hugging it. And I'm like, oh, like we're both laying back on the ground because like, it was hard, like getting it out of the hole. And it's just like this, finally, oh my God, okay.
So there's no face. There's no
face, nothing. You couldn't see what it was or who it was. It was just you could tell it was a shadow of a person. And I hugged it and I'm laying back with it and I'm hugging it so tight. And then I'm like, I'm so sorry I let you go. I've got you now. You're safe. Don't run away from me anymore. I love you. I'm saying all of these things to it, and then it hit me. It was me. It was me. And I had lost myself, and I knew I had lost myself so much in those last 3 days. But what I felt after that, like I remember like saying all of those things to the shadow, to myself, it like went into me like a like it was like my soul went back into myself.
Oh, wow.
And we connected and we were one. And then I woke up.
Wow.
And I texted him and I said, I'm done. And he came in and he looked at me and I said, I'm back. And I didn't mean like I was back from fucking tripping balls.
You meant
I meant I'm back. And I said, I don't know how long I've been gone, but I feel like it's been a while. And I'm really sorry. And I realized in that trip that I was so afraid of everyone leaving me and not loving me and abandoning me. And I was doing it to myself for years.
Wow.
I didn't love myself enough. I didn't take care of myself. And I had been abandoning my needs. And I had been letting other people speak for me and not standing up for myself for fucking years. And something just shifted. And I think in our first episode, you had said something about like your first time seeing me in 2 years and how there was like a physical transformation.
But it wasn't just physical.
But also a glow.
Yeah.
I started working out. I started getting healthier. I started loving myself. I started taking care of myself.
Now, when you say loving yourself, because people are like, I don't know. I mean, I don't like, how do you love yourself? What do you mean by that?
Oh my God, how do you even describe this? Because I don't know that I ever loved myself enough to know that I was worth more, which is why I was okay with the pain and the hurt that I had in my life, because I didn't know that I deserved any more than that. I didn't feel like I was worthy of more than that.
I relate to that.
It's so hard because when you have people hurting you your entire life, you really start to feel like you're the problem.
Well, and, with me having physical and verbal and psychological abuse, the things that my sister would tell me, you're a piece of shit. No one likes you. I believed it. So
it's
then that's
psychological.
Right. And so then I was like, yeah. Why would I have a different life? This is the life that I deserve.
Yeah.
This is how I'm always going to feel.
Yes.
Because that's just how my life is always going to be.
I don't think people understand how psychologically damaging those negative words can affect someone who's already traumatized. And you don't even have to be traumatized for those words to affect you. Like, I started speaking more positive things into my life. I started speaking more positive to myself. I'd been setting the boundaries and it was just I came out of it and I had my voice back and I was like, I am not going to have a relationship with your mother anymore. I am not going to allow the disrespect and the toxicity. And I am okay with how you feel about that. I can't do it anymore.
Good for you.
And there's so many layers to that alone, but that lesson in loving myself more and speaking to myself in kinder ways and knowing that I do deserve more and I can speak up for myself.
You absolutely can.
And I've been working on that for the past year. So that was last year.
Wow.
And my second trip.
Wow.
It was a lot.
I'm so proud of you, though.
It's a lot.
I mean, because you've been through some shit. So to come out literally on the other side of it.
On the other side of it. There's this, in the book, The Alchemist.
I'm almost done.
Okay. And just, you hear these people say when you start growing, the things around you start growing, and in The Alchemist, that's what happens. Like,
or they fall off.
They either grow with you or they fall off. And when they fall away, you've got to let them, because you cannot let the people around you hold you back from being your true higher self, not your ego self, your higher self. And with somebody standing in the way of that or doesn't understand it, it's okay to let them go. So with that being said, the more, this is going to sound crazy, but it started to get to the point where I felt like I was taking control of my life back.
Right.
And I noticed disrespect right away. I called it out right away. I was like, this is not what's going to happen. You are not doing this to me anymore. It's never going to happen again. Those things stopped happening.
So when, you found that voice, because I don't think you ever had a voice.
No, I never had it.
Yeah.
No.
This is your first time ever having a voice.
First time.
How did Jason respond to that?
It was a little, it's a shift. And I think I had to work on the volume of my voice.
That's hard. Because, see, I've always had the voice, but I just had to learn when and where to use it. Because it is hard to.
I did. I had to learn when and where to use it. And he was like, my God, you're fucking resilient. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. You have
yes, I
problem
am.
with that?
I am resilient. When it comes to my peace and my happiness and my mental health, absolutely, I will fight until it's right.
Good for you.
However, I can come off a little strong sometimes. So I had to learn to be gentle with it.
Yeah.
And I think we're there now. I'm not saying like my voice was loud or soft. Like literally just the way that I would say things would come across as harsh or
direct,
very direct, like almost like demanding, like absolutely fucking not.
Right.
You are not doing that to me anymore. Like that type of thing. And so now I'm like, there's also this like quiet confidence in saying it in a way where you're like, yeah, you're not going to talk to me like that anymore.
Well, and somebody who always did have a voice, when people would say things or, they definitely could be disrespectful, but I was very triggered by it. Where now I'm not as triggered by it. It's just more of again, kind of what we talked about, that quieter confidence where it's like, no, I'm not going to deal with that.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then I'm not going to be in your life anymore. But I'm not going to overly yell or overly justify why it's not fair for you to treat me in that way. I don't have anything to prove to you. I know who I am. I know my voice. And if you're not going to respect it, you're not going to rock me. You're not going to trigger me. You're not going to get this, emotional reaction out of me.
Right.
I'm just going to adjust accordingly.
Yeah. And I think it also, it created some shifts in some of my friendships as well.
Oh, I'm sure
because
it did.
Old me just sat and agreed with people. I was the glorified therapist. So you would come to me and tell me about your problems. And I'd be like, oh yeah, that sucks. Oh, he did this to me. And I'm like, oh, what an asshole. But the voice started getting louder, and I would ask questions. Like, if you're going to come to me about your problems, I'm going to say, well, why does that make you sad? Why does that make you angry? Explore that feeling. And it almost like pisses people off because I'm not just siding with them on everything. Right. So there have been some breakaways with that, and that was hard, but I'm like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just asking questions.
Right.
Why does it make you mad?
Right.
Why does it make you sad? What was triggered? what can you do about that situation? You know? So a lot of people don't want to hear that. I don't know. That's my second trip. That's all. That's it. It's
That
not
was-
all. That's not it. It's just, it's
I mean,
a lot.
that was a lot.
It's a lot. And I also want to say, you know, where we are in our relationship now has, both of us have put in the work. Both of us have been learning and understanding and finding how to communicate with each other.
Well, another thing too is a lot of times people abuse substances because they're trying to escape something. Like I know my dad was an alcoholic. He also struggled with depression. And so like he turned into a different human being when he drank. But now I have just a better understanding that he had these demons that he tried to escape. And that was his escape, is alcohol.
Yeah.
And so when Jason, he got sober, he didn't have that escape anymore.
Yeah.
And he still kind of struggled a little bit, right? Because
he
it's
totally
like he
still struggled because he removed the substance, he removed the coping, you know, the addiction, he removed the thing that helped him escape these things, but the problems were still there. And they talk about that in AA, you know, alcohol is just the mask. And once you remove it, there's all these issues and the things that you were running from start to come and surface. And, you know, it hasn't been easy. That first year of sobriety is like extremely difficult, but I really honestly think we wouldn't be where we are today if I hadn't also been doing the work alongside with him. I really, truly believe that, because old me wouldn't have been able to let go of some of the things that happened. And, you know, that's a lot of people, I think, I remember opening up to my best friend about some of this, and she was like, you don't really talk about this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because it's
a lot.
It's a lot, but also like I'm ashamed for even saying it out loud that I put up with this. But I also would tell myself, yeah, but he was drunk. That's not who he is when he's sober. That's just what he does when he's drinking. And I would almost excuse it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's been a lot. But yes, we've both put in the work, and he has done 2 mushroom trips since then, and they helped him get through that first year.
Well, and if you wouldn't have found your voice,
oh my God,
he wouldn't have gotten sober.
I don't think I would have been able to notice patterns in a way that I could articulate what was happening to me.
Right.
And what he was doing. So the fact that I was able to recognize them and say, I had to be condescending sometimes. That's what it sounded like. I'm like, you're telling me I did this, and you were forgetting that you did this. Right. We both did something, but you were putting all of the blame on me.
Right. And not taking any
and not taking any of the accountability for yourself. And it would like take a minute, you know, sometimes. And he would be like, shit, you're right. You know, like that type of thing, where had I not noticed that, it would have just been a cycle. I would have been right back where I was, like putting everything on me holding on to it.
Well, and I think the amazing thing about, 1, you being an empath, and 2, you finding a voice, is a lot of empaths, they see things often in a much different way that someone who isn't an empath would. Like, because you're very hypersensitive to a lot of things, energy and intentions and all of that, where you are going to notice things that he's not going to notice at all. And it's almost, because I'm a lot like that with Tony. You know, when I've talked to him about like racism and things like that, he's anti-racist, but he didn't sometimes look at things from a different perspective, because he had a very, you know, he is white. He had 2 very, very loving parents, and he often didn't see things in the way that I saw them. And when I would kind of break down situations about like just looking at another perspective, or how something could affect someone in a different way, he would just be like, oh, wow, like I never thought about it like that before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm an empath and you're not.
Yeah.
but it's a good balance, because I'm sure if I were, you know, with somebody who was also an empath, I'd be like, wow, that it's like there's like so many feelings
I would
right now.
know.
I can't.
Yeah. I would.
Like I'm exhausted by myself sometimes. I couldn't imagine being romantic.
Two of me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I could not handle two of me.
But I think, you are able to point things out to him in a way that if it were just him, he wouldn't be able to acknowledge those
He wouldn't see them the way that I
behaviors
see
and
them.
the toxicity. And like I said, he wasn't aware about his mother and kind of the manipulative patterns that she used and the narcissism. And it's, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know.
So
yeah,
luckily and unluckily for us, we are empaths because of what we had to grow up with and a lot that we had to deal with. And so we, became very attuned to everything around us.
I used to think it was a curse. And now
I did too.
I see how it's such a good thing.
Yeah. Well, because I was constantly exhausted by it. Constantly.
But we didn't have boundaries.
Well, and then once I started to put, I hated to see people sad or upset. And I would put, a lot of confidence and love and strength into them because I wanted them to feel good. But I wasn't putting confidence and love and strength and kindness into me at all. So
yeah,
I think that's something that a lot of empaths,
they pour into others and they forget to pour back into themselves.
I thought that was my purpose. I thought my purpose was to help other people feel good. And I think it still is, but I come first.
I took these notes because I wanted to do some type of podcast episode about this. And I do think we should do that. But I want to say it right now because I think one of the biggest keys in growing as a person, there's a connection here, I promise, is self-awareness. And this is why, because there are empaths, there are self-aware empaths, and then after that comes empowered empaths.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Because I didn't know I was an empath. And when I found out, I didn't know what the fuck to do with that. It made sense. I was self-aware.
And the problem is the word empath is a little bit of a token word.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah. So
there's the self-aware empath. And then when you start practicing and placing those boundaries, there is the empowered empath. Ooh. Now, there's another connection here because this is where I'm like, holy shit, this self-awareness part it kind of puts itself into all of these aspects. So there's an alcoholic. There's this self-aware alcoholic or addict.
And then there's an empowered.
I don't know if you would just call it an empowered addict. I don't think there's a term.
I said it
you stopped.
And I didn't even think. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right.
But that's, so.
Do you see where I'm going?
I do see where you're going because that's kind of where I was going because there is someone who recognizes that they have a problem. And that's the first step in growing and healing is that self-awareness.
Yeah.
But you cannot get over that until you become empowered in where you stand and the fact that you are powerless over this substance or you are powerless over who and what you are and your basic design, like your purpose, and you're powerless over that, right?
Wow, yeah.
So you use it and you empower yourself.
Interesting.
I don't know. It was just a thought because I'm like, it's crazy because I think a lot of people know they have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol.
Or it could just be with a lot of things.
With anything.
It could be,
It's that taking that power back
right,
that empowers you to be your higher self.
Yeah. Yeah. That was beautiful. I love that.
I want to do an episode for real on empaths and what that means because I feel like we use it like everybody should just know what it is and know what it means.
That's a good idea.
But it might be good to like kind of
break it down. Because me and you did the actual test. Do you remember that? You sent it to me.
Oh yeah,
like when I was like, oh my God, I'm an empath.
Yeah.
I remember like talking to you about it because you're the only other one who I was like, yeah, you for sure are too. And
my story was like, a shaman told me I was an empath. What do I do with that?
But I remember you sent me a quiz.
Yeah.
Let's say there was 20 questions. I was like 19 out of 20.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
Like, and it's like full blown empath.
Right. Yep.
Same.
Yep.
Same. So it's interesting. So, all right. Any questions? Do you have any questions?
No, that was beautiful. And I'm just, like I said, I've already known a little bit about that second trip, but now like really kind of getting more into detail, I'm just, everything that you've been through and how you've overcome it, I'm just proud of you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I just had thought about it. I forgot to connect back to this, like the feeling like it was going to be this horrible, bad trip.
Yep.
And feeling like it was going to be about my mother-in-law or about my marriage or about the dark place I was in. And it was about love.
Yeah.
And loving myself and not abandoning myself. It was crazy how it was not what I expected at all, but it was exactly what I needed.
And it goes back to kind of just surrendering, because I was the same way too. I'm like, oh, it's going to be about this. And I was trying to, again,
Fight it.
Control it too.
Yeah.
And luckily for my guide being there, I was just like, you just have to let go and let it be what it is, because obviously you trying to control everything, it hasn't worked out for you. So you just have to trust the process and trust that whatever happens, it's going to be a learning lesson and kind of like a wake up. This is what you need to do, you need to do something different. And it starts with you. Don't blame outside circumstances or people.
Do you think,
focus on you,
because you've done it and because you've felt what it was like to fight it, and then you felt what it was like when you surrendered to it, do you feel like if you do it again, you would have a much easier time just letting go right away?
100%.
That's how I felt too.
Right. Because my mindset is, even if it's something because at first, the episode where I talk about my one and only trip, I was so scared that it was going to be about my dad or my sister, and it was going to be so painful, and that I didn't have the confidence in myself that I was going to be able to live through that again. That was just so much of what my fear stemmed from. But now, again, because I have this new confidence and just love for myself, and I continue with that every single day, that if I do this again, and I will, to just let go and to just be open-minded to this this next learning experience. Like, how I see it is, okay, well, what am I going to learn next? Even if it's painful. Yeah. And again, I got this.
You've got it. No matter what it is.
No matter what it is, I'm like, bring it the fuck on. If it's like these, I don't know, shadows that I'm chasing like you, or I don't even care. Like,
my favorite.
It's this quiet confidence that I have now that I can get through anything. So
my favorite part about this is talking to other people about their experiences and realizing that they are all so different,
but similar,
and so life-changing if you are doing them in the right way. That there is, I don't know, it's just interesting to hear other people's stories and what they've learned.
We had very different journeys. Like, yours was very visual and mine wasn't. Mine was about feeling, but they were very similar in the sense that the huge lesson was that we weren't putting love and confidence into ourselves like we were other people. And we both thought it would be about other things, and it was about us.
Yeah.
And what we needed to do. And that's what's crazy to me, is because people can, you saw visuals, I had feelings. People can, come back as animals or another person, or
they can experience death,
their
or
younger
rebirth.
self, or rebirth, or death, or whatever it is. But I feel like the commonality of just kind of the core is love.
I was just going to say that.
Bitch, you're my twin. But it's love, whether it is,
say that.
And I posted this the other day on my Instagram story with all the there's a Christian school in Louisville, and they've gone viral in a little bit of a negative way because they're teaching their middle schoolers to write letters to people that they know or classmates that they know or friends or whatever that are gay and why it's wrong. And so I just posted about, the disappointment of that. But again, that the answer is always, always, always love.
Always.
And that's what often we miss, though. And it really is so simple. And, oftentimes we think we are so different. And I don't even want to get into politics or anything like that. But what I just wanted to say is, people are extreme one way and people are extreme the other way. There's a reason why the government purposely tries to do that, because they don't want us to love each other. They don't want us to love ourselves.
They want to create the divide.
They want to create the divide. And that's something that I've learned really recently. And that if you take all that stuff away, a lot of us have a lot more in common than often what we think. And there's always just so much distraction and noise in the middle. But if we just kind of break it down and, again, respond to things with love, like even you putting up boundaries, you're putting up boundaries because you love yourself.
And I love the other person.
Right.
And I want them in my life.
Right. Yeah.
Did we just become hippies?
100%.
Did we just become hippies?
You've always been a hippie. I'm turning into a hippie.
I've kind of always, well, I don't want to even say always. This is just kind of all new stuff to me, but I am the witchy hippie peace and love one.
Like I said,
we're both love now.
And I kind of feel like, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I kind of feel like I've been very inspired by you and influenced by you in a good way, in a positive way. And I feel like that you're kind of like the older sister that I never got to have. That just kind of like, I just really, really look up to you. And I feel like you've just taught me a lot about myself and loving myself. And again, everything has been love.
Love.
Love is always the answer. But no, I really mean that. I feel like I never got that. Like, I had always been so jealous of people who had these relationships with their sisters, because I wanted that so badly and I never got that. But I feel like I'm getting that with you now.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very special to me, our friendship.
I am older than you too, so.
Well, yeah.
That's okay.
I got to point that out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just I got to point that out. Gee, thanks.
Not by much.
So this episode was about love. We didn't even mean to make it about that, and it is. The answer is always love.
Always.
Always love. And we can't wait to talk to you guys again.
So we've, again, have gotten amazing responses and feedback.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. And be sure to like us on Instagram, See You at the Other Side, or See You on the Other Side podcast. And then on TikTok, See You on the Other Side pod. Yes.
Rate and review and subscribe. We love to see the we already have reviews, but they're not worded. So I'm like, who did that? I want to know why you gave us 5 stars. Tell me why. I'm just kidding. You don't have to. It would. Okay, whatever. Yes, do it. And we will see you guys on the other side.
Bye.